Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, so today we're exploring this deeply fascinating connection between the extreme, super high-stakes pressure of classical singing and, well, the everyday stressors that you and I face in our normal lives. Now, I know it sounds like a massive stretch, right? But the research we're unpacking today actually reveals that understanding how an opera singer manages a punishing spotlight holds the exact key to how we can manage our own daily hassles, college exams, or crazy office deadlines.
All right, let's dive into part one. The pressure of performance.
You know, classical singing is literally one of the most demanding forms of music making on the planet. I mean, singers aren't just reciting notes. They have to combine this refined, absolutely flawless vocal technique with deep emotional authenticity, all while communicating live with an audience. As this quote from the Asian Scholars Network highlights, these performers operate under intense public scrutiny and continuous evaluative pressure. It's a level of vulnerability most of us can hardly even imagine, just standing there, entirely exposed on stage.
And all of that intense scrutiny, well, it breeds a very specific type of terror known as music performance anxiety, or MPA. We're not just talking about a few butterflies in the stomach here. MPA is this profound anxiety that actually impairs attention, compromises memory retrieval, and completely strips away the singer's ability to be expressive. The very stress of the situation literally paralyzes their abilities. It's a high-stakes example of how stress can just short-circuit our brains, setting up this universal problem we all face when the pressure is really on.
Moving on to Section 2, the Creative Resilience Model.
So how do they combat this anxiety? Performers rely on something called psychological flexibility. It's basically the capacity to remain present and act in alignment with chosen values, even while experiencing incredibly difficult internal thoughts or feelings. Instead of fruitlessly trying to suppress their stage fright, which, honestly, usually just makes it a whole lot worse, performers learn to accept it. They acknowledge the racing heart, they feel the intrusive thoughts, and they continue their value-directed action anyway.
This psychological flexibility is part of a much larger framework called the Creative Resilience Model, and it's built on three reinforcing pillars. First up, there's mindset flexibility, which enables them to work with the anxiety rather than constantly fighting against it. Second is expressive agency, which empowers them to take bold, interpretive risks. And third is identity work, which gives them a long-term, coherent narrative of who they are as an artist. Together, the whole shebang empowers performers to not just bounce back from adversity, but to creatively grow from it.
And here is the truly fascinating part. They build these pillars using their actual work. Singers use contrasting repertoire as a literal laboratory for testing their resilience. For example, the profound differences between Beethoven's Adelaide and Schubert's Gretchen im Spinnrad present entirely different expressive challenges. By navigating these completely contrasting emotional landscapes on stage, singers are actively practicing emotional regulation. They use the music itself to build up their psychological endurance.
So, the crucial point is, how does this apply to us? What if your stage isn't a grand, beautiful concert hall, but just a really crowded, open-plan office, a brutal college exam, or, dealing with a horribly delayed commute?
That brings us to Section 3, Coping with Everyday Stress.
To figure out how this applies to our lives, we can look at a fascinating research paper from the University of Illinois. They outlined 5 really comprehensive studies looking at exactly how we cope, and what's great is the sheer variety of everyday stressors they tested. They didn't just look at major life traumas, they looked at students sweating over college exams, people dealing with mundane, highly annoying timed typing tasks, and the absolute daily grind of pandemic stress. And guess what? They found that the exact same psychological tools used by those elite opera singers apply to us all when we're just trying to figure out how to navigate an annoying Tuesday.
Let's move into Section 4, Meaning as a Resource.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core concept of the University of Illinois research, Meaning in Life, or MIL. Now, MIL is defined as the subjective evaluation that one's existence has significance, purpose, and coherence. But here is the kicker. The researchers didn't treat meaning in life as some abstract philosophical poetry. No way. They treated it as a highly practical cognitive coping resource. It is a functional tool that our brains use to navigate chaos,
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing the actual mechanics of meaning playing out. You can see how multifaceted this whole concept is. It mobilizes cognitive components, like sense-making, motivational components, like self-regulation, and affective components, like regulating negative emotions. All of these feed directly into our problem-focused and meaning-focused coping strategies, effectively acting like a giant shield that significantly reduces our ultimate distress.
Through these 5 studies, the researchers discovered that people with high meaning in life consistently rely on 3 specific strategies across all types of stressors. First, positive reinterpretation, which is finding the hidden benefit in a hassle. Second, proactive planning, actually taking steps to fix the problem rather than just sitting there worrying about it. And third, coping self-efficacy. That's that deep inner confidence that you actually have the ability to handle whatever the world is throwing at you today.
Okay, let's look at Section 5, from threat to challenge. Let's see how this builds, because it really all comes down to how we appraise an event. Without meaning, we tend to make what they call threat appraisals. We view a stressor as a fundamental danger, and that leads straight to emotion-focused panic, denial, avoidance, and a whole lot of distress. But meaning in life shifts our perspective to challenge appraisals. When you view your life as purposeful and coherent, a sudden deadline isn't a threat to your survival, right? It's a challenge, and viewing it as a challenge unlocks all that proactive problem-solving we just talked about.
This sense of meaning actually operates across a timeline. In the past, it provides a cognitive framework to reconcile negative events, allowing us to integrate those bad experiences into our life story. In the present, it helps us make sense of our daily hassles, keeping us grounded right now. And for the future, it gives us goal orientation and planning. Having that coherent narrative helps you process where you've been, handle the annoyances of today, and strategically plan for tomorrow's success.
And here is absolutely the coolest finding from the daily diary studies the researchers conducted. It's a two-way street. Meaning in life predicts that you will use adaptive coping strategies today. But if you actually use those adaptive coping strategies to proactively solve problems today, it increases your meaning in life tomorrow. It's a total bidirectional relationship. Meaning and coping form this compounding resilience loop that just grows stronger and stronger over time.
Which brings our metaphor completely full circle. Remember how the classical singers use their repertoire, like Beethoven and Schubert, as a literal laboratory to practice their emotional regulation? Well, we can use our daily annoyances in the exact same way. That frustrating typing task at work, the delayed train, the incredibly tough exam, they aren't just annoying obstacles, they are your laboratory. They are perfect opportunities to practice your positive reinterpretation and your proactive planning.
So, I'll leave you with this to ponder. Think about the single biggest stressor you are facing right now. How can you step out of the emotion-focused panic, appraise it as a challenge rather than a threat, and apply meaning-focused coping to it today? What is your very first proactive step going to be? Get out there and use your laboratory. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep building that resilience loop.